Thanks for tuning in, everybody. You're listening to the Grow Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Nolan Fast. Today we're here with Sam Hahn, Linda Mckay, and Kaylee Wheeler. And Sam, I hear you're having an issue with cows, so I'll give you the floor.
All right, so I guess my question is pinkeye a problem everywhere this year, or is it just me? Because I know we treated our calves and cows for pinkeye, and I still have a problem existing, so I guess that's just my question there.
Pinkeye this year is actually a problem throughout our whole trade territory. It's not just in one area. We have been receiving multiple calls about it and questions of what can I do, or what did I do wrong, or that. It's not contained to just the calves. We're seeing it in the cows. We're seeing it in the yearling cattle. It doesn't seem to matter what type of grass you're on. If you're on brome grass or you're on native grass, we are seeing issues all throughout. Some of the rules or some of the things that we are suggesting for people to do is, number one, make sure you have a good mineral out there. Make sure that your mineral has at least 300 units of vitamin A, and 30,000 units of vitamin D, and 300 units of vitamin E. Reason for that is that will help boost their immune system and help with that pink eye. Our wind and rain mineral that we carry does have all that. Other things that we are suggesting is to use fly control in the mineral, and that would be with our Alticid product. And then also make sure that your mineral consumptions are where they're at. We do have a number of producers that we are also suggesting that you do consult your local vet and make sure, that your protocols that you're doing are accurate as far as that goes.
So have you been doing any of that, Sam?
I treated with the pink eye and all that stuff, and then had some problems with it. Had a couple calves. I gave another shot of LA200 too. But I do have fly mineral out there. I actually have the custom Clarifly mix. Mm-hmm. I have Co-op make that for us because that's really done well for us. But there is still a lot of flies this year. I mean, you don't have 100% control always, but you can definitely see when it gets wet too. When we have these rain events, the flies are really bad. Or is there, I guess, a lot of trouble with flies too this year? Or?
We are starting to see, one thing we are starting to see is that people who spray their calves and their cows for flies, if they use the pyrethra, which is PY, instead of the perm, which is PER, that they're getting better fly control, and that they're killing those flies and having better fly control on their cows. So just make sure you look at your fly spray, what is actually in it. If it's PY, we are seeing a little better control this year. If it's PER, then we're not seeing as much control as far as the active ingredient that's in your fly spray.
Is that more of a contact? You have to contact fly, or is that just, or you put it on the hide and it works that way?
You just spray it on the hide. It will kill some of them when it hits. And it does normally last about 10 to 15 days.
Okay.
So it's just
you gotta spray them again.
Yep, you got to spray them. It's not a one time and done, but it does help alleviate the flies. And then with your fly control, whether you're using the Clarifly or the Alticid product, that actually takes like a 21-day, because when the cattle ingest it, it goes through their system, and then in the manure, it actually kills the fly larvae. So you may have to spray just to help control some of your flies.
Yeah, that's what I knew, that it was in the manure for that.
Don't spray it right before it's going to rain.
Oh, yeah, to wash out, kind of like, you don't want to work a cattle in the rain with the pour on and stuff with the ticks and all that stuff, yeah.
I know when we had talked, you were talking about a trial that you guys were doing, or Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so as a feed intern with Farmers Co-op, I get to work with Purina products to essentially test fly control on different groups of cows. So I'm actually working with one trial that uses the Alticid product, and one that's using the custom Co-op mix with the Synagar and Clarifly in it. And so essentially what those are, like Linda was saying with the Alticid, is it's a feed-through product. So they ingest it, and then it's in their manure. When the flies go to lay their eggs, it interrupts their life cycle, so the larvae don't actually turn into adult flies. Versus the Synagar product is more of a repellent, so it's more to do with like the smell. When the cows eat it, the flies don't want to land on them. So I'm working with 2 of those, and I guess what we've found traditionally with a lot of the Purina trials is that the Alticid works really well, and so does the Clarifly, as long as they're eating it. And that's essentially what it comes down to with mineral. Any mineral that you're feeding, it has to do with their intake. So it's really important to monitor that they're actually eating it. So otherwise, it's not going to work.
So
some people do get tripped up on the intake. They'll call and they say, oh my gosh, my cows ate it in 3 days. If they have been lacking in mineral, it may take them 2 weeks to get adjusted to, like, our Wind and Rain is the 4 ounces. Some of the custom minerals are at 3 ounces. So it may take them time to get attracted to that. The other thing people need to also realize is if you have January, February calves on those cows, they are probably eating 2 ounces themselves. So in all honesty, per pair, you're going through 6 ounces. So when you start figuring that up, sometimes they're not eating as much as what you think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen it gone like overnight before, and then I've seen it in there for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it's variable.
And what you can do to kind of influence the intake amounts is you move the mineral feeders to different locations based on what you want their intake to be. So if you need them to be eating more, move it to high traffic areas where they like to hang out, like some shady trees or near their water sources. Or if they're eating it overnight, move it kind of out of the way more so that they have to.
So they have to work for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Is that something that you have to that you have to stick with? So if they eat it all, like, you kill all the larvae, like, how often do you have to keep giving it to them?
So for the Alticid and the Clarifly products to work the best, we actually recommend that you start feeding it 30 days before the flies emerge. So in the spring, like while it's still frosting, 30 days before the frost season ends, and then 30 days into the frost season in the fall. And that's going to guarantee that you have the maximum amount of flies that were
Taken
killed.
out.
Yeah.
So normally about the 1st of April, you're going to start, and you're
Yep.
going to feed at least through September, if not into October.
Yeah.
To get the
To
maximum.
interrupt the full life cycle of the
Yeah.
fly.
Mm-hmm. And as you continue to feed it, like year after year, you're going to see more and more control and less flies.
Yeah, I'm in year 2 of doing the Clarify. The Clarify has more, because the Alticid's more on just the horse flies or horn flies or...
Alticid is more for the horn flies. The Clarifly is cleared for face flies, stable flies, horn flies, and that. The one thing, though, when you get into face flies and stable flies is they will fly, and they will not always just place their eggs in the manure. They may place them in a grass pile, or they may place them over here in some weeds or that, where horn flies normally never venture very far from the cow. They cannot live without a host, so they're not going to venture very far. So the manure is their main place of laying their eggs.
Okay.
So
So you can at least get most of them.
mhm. So you will get the horn flies. So that is the one difference.
And what we've seen with the horn flies is, like Linda said, they don't migrate. So even like across the road, you can see a noticeable difference in fly control because
Okay.
they won't even fly across the
So
road.
if your neighbor's not controlling his flies and you're not necessarily going to...
Yeah, I won't say that's every time, but it has. I mean,
It's a
been
trend you've noticed?
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for treating of the pink eye?
To keep this politically correct, we do recommend that you contact your vet and do what your vet
And do what they recommend?
do what they recommend, because we are not licensed vets. So I mean, we do know some things that have worked, but each vet's different, and so you just do need to contact your vet and talk with them.
But on our end of what we can do, it sounds like the mineral consumption with those vitamins is probably the best thing that we can
best
recommend.
Right.
And
The
then-
mineral with some type of fly control. And you may need to do a spray program, to kill some of the flies, and then also make sure that your vitamin A, D, and E levels are up. If your vitamin A, D, E levels are not that high, we do have an ad pack that we can just have you add some additional to your mineral. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people expect to feed the fly control mineral and expect to see results right away. But like Linda said, it takes 3 to 4 weeks for that to actually interrupt the life cycle. And it's important that you're using it with other fly control methods. Like, you can't just feed your mineral and expect that to work totally, because especially after you get big rains or things like that, like, flies are going to be born, and you can't stop that. So you have to use fly tags, use spray, contact your vet for what the best thing for you to use is, but definitely a combination of things for the best fly control possible.
It seems like the mineral and stuff's more of like it's a preventative rather than like a treatment.
Correct.
You gotta just be doing it to prevent it.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And then hopefully most people, when we are talking about pink eye, have given a pink eye shot of some time in May when they work their cattle, or June when they work their cattle. So hopefully that helps. Some of that pink eye is in with your black leg shot. Some vets have a specific pink eye cultured for that area. So, that all depends on, what your vet, but hopefully you have given a pink eye shot. Sometimes you do need to booster them in the end of June, 1st of July.
So, Kaylee, intern for the feed department, you have, I know I followed it on Instagram, but you're becoming a bit of a, I don't know if social media influencer, but you have an online presence called the Resilient Rancher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a page that I created on Instagram and Facebook. For one, because I think those are two of like the most common social medias that almost everyone has. But it really came to life this spring during the coronavirus. Yeah. We were all at home, and it gave me a lot of time to brainstorm and just think about things. And really, like, social media was at an all-time high, in my opinion, during coronavirus. Everyone was on it. Everyone was using it. So I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. I finally did it. And essentially what my goal with this page is just to show off the realities of cattle ranching and production agriculture, because there's such an online presence of anti-ag groups online and on lots of social media, and I don't think that it's often enough that the real stories get shared.
Yeah.
And again, with that, I think that so many of our producers, when something bad comes up or when anti-ag groups attack, they're so quick to defend and put up their guards and say that we're not doing anything wrong. And I think it's so important to just like open up that conversation and have open conversations about,
the whole time.
Maybe we're not doing this specific thing right. Maybe we should look at different alternatives, but this is how we're doing it. And just showing off that it's not right all the time. That's how you build trust. If you are someone who never admits that they're wrong, how are you going to be trusted by people if you can't admit that you're wrong? And I think that especially now, especially in the coming future, trust between consumers and producers is so important. That really needs to get built up, because consumers have to be able to trust that producers are giving them what they need in the best way possible. When consumers lose trust, that's when we lose our consumers. That's when they're not buying our stuff. That's when they look at alternative things, and it's just so important for us to have that trust.
That open conversation. I know I've seen there's a number of really popular like ag YouTubers, and it's interesting seeing like, so yours is directed at like a consumer level, like somebody that's not necessarily a farmer or like in the ag industry. But I find it really interesting that there's some that it's a business of theirs to be on YouTube, and it seems like they're directed at fellow farmers. So it's more of like a vlog, like a day in the life, where yours is more of it's a vlog, but it's a much simpler, pared down version, right? Because it's at somebody that's not necessarily a farmer that would know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that my content is it's directed at people who don't know, but it's also directed at connecting with people who do know.
Who know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because I think it's so cool to share the stories of people who, like, the way that we do things at my family operation is completely different than the way that we do things down here. That's one of the number one things I've learned in my internship so far, is that even within the same state, things can be so different on how you do things. Even just treating pink eye, so different. So it is about connecting with other producers, but it's also about sharing those stories to consumers. So, yeah.
Have you noticed, because I know we've talked about, Sam, we've talked about social media and kind of what the younger farmers do with you. like, have you noticed, like, your viewing audience or people you connect with, or even, like, what trends do you see with, like, ag individuals and social media? Like, where are people? Like, what are they looking at?
I think that people look at what they want to look at. And that's the struggle with starting a page like this, is that, like, I pretty much my whole basis around it is the idea of asking a rancher.
Yes.
So I want people who don't know or people who do know to reach out and ask me and have those open conversations. But that's the struggle, is people are so, if they want to know, what's the first thing they do is they open up Google and they search whatever they want, and maybe they use unreliable sources and get inaccurate information. I think that's common a lot of the times. So that's really my push and my goal for this page in the coming years that I'm going to have it, is to encourage people to look at people like me and people out in the industry who also have social media and turn to them for information instead of their phones.
Linda, do you ever have people come and ask you, like, maybe not farmers, but people that just want to know more about what you're doing? Or
Yeah, we do. I interact some with schools and then young groups down in the community and that. And it is really surprising that even though we live in a small community and we think everybody should understand, whether it's farming or whether it is raising livestock, that they should understand it, and they don't have a clue. We go to schools and we may ask them, where does milk come from? And notorious, we'll get the store, and it's like, well, how does it get to the store?
The truck.
Yeah, I have no clue. So it's really surprising. The other thing that is really surprising to see is that your dad may have been a farmer, but say you have moved to Lincoln or some city, and how much removed your kids are. Just with one generation, how much they do not understand about farming, about raising crops, about raising livestock, and that it's really kind of scary for us out here in the agricultural world.
And it's so interesting because people like Linda and I, we live this lifestyle every single day, and we know all the details, and they're just second nature to us. So someone who comes in and just doesn't know, they just don't understand all those details. It's so hard for them to understand. Mm-hmm. Even the simplest thing.
Yeah.
What would you say? So if you're thinking about, like, your friend groups or your family, like, personally, I mean, how many of your friends and family, like, personally, do you have that just are completely disconnected from farming? Like, do you surround yourself with people that are also farmers? And
I would say yes. We surround ourselves with more farmers. We do have friends or contacts, whether it be from college and high school, that have moved on, that are not in the agricultural world or don't know it. But I would say probably 80% of my contacts or my friends are probably ag-related.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm still in school. I'm a senior at UNL, so I'm exposed to probably a larger group of people who aren't necessarily livestock raisers or agriculture people. But I still, like, there's something about being young that people aren't scared to ask questions. I would say majority of my friend group may not be involved in agriculture, but they are so willing to ask questions. And that was a lot of inspiration for me, because I'm so willing to teach them. And, like, they ask the stupidest questions, you might say, but to me, no question is stupid, because I'm like, you really have no idea.
You didn't know.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to, like, that I do know and I can help you understand.
Sam and I also graduated from UNL, so good choice.
Yeah, you're probably people who do and don't know probably vary quite a bit by campus too. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know
Definitely.
City and East are pretty.
I was
different.
gonna say I was on city campus, so I mean I was basically surrounded by art students and maybe some business students.
Yeah.
We didn't interact much with. I grew up on a farm, so I mean I grew up in that mindset, but the people on city campus, I mean, they were farthest from understanding agriculture, at least the ones that were around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my wife's from Beatrice, and that's 15 minutes from where our farm's at, and she didn't know much about any of farming at all, because she'd never been on a farm really or been around it at all. And Beatrice is in that big of a town. So, I mean, that's just the way that's just the way it is. And she asks me questions all the time about how things, and I'm just like, and I'm too short with her because I'm just like, you don't know this? You should know this. Well, I don't. So, and I'm not as good at, doing that as I can be. I mean, I feel like I promote agriculture a little bit, but you can always, promote it more. And it's really important to, like you said, show and be transparent about what we're doing and show that, hey, we're out there caring for these animals and things like that. So, because I'm not a really big fan of all those anti-ag groups, and I get upset about those things. So that's why I always like to post pictures when I feed cows in snow and stuff like that.
And how happy they are.
And
Definitely.
like, I mean, you gotta show, like, we care about these animals, and we care about what we do. So, and it is nice that you're doing the Resilient Rancher deal, because I feel like there's too much, not that it's bad, but a lot of these, social media accounts for farmers, a lot of them are around like grain farming. So
that's what I've noticed.
Yeah,
is most of them are like row crops.
Yeah, well, just it's a more glamorous view of farming with the row crop and all that thing. So, those of us, that actually get our hands dirty and stuff.
Maybe Sam should start a YouTube channel.
I don't know about that. But my page is a mix of like farming and sports. So
farming and football.
I should probably put more farming on it.
We just named Sam's next YouTube channel.
Yeah, there you go. So no, I applaud you for what you're doing. That's cool, and we need people like you promoting that message out there. So.
Well, before we close it off, how can people find your page? Like, if they're on Instagram or Facebook, what do they look up to find you?
Just search The Resilient Rancher.
And it'll come up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming in and filling us in on everything. And Sam, it's always nice to have you in here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you comment. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a review. And as always, keep growing.